I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.
What up, Mean Militia? I'm Mean Joe Grizzly, and a couple of weeks ago, I had the honor of attending the 12th Annual Crimson Screen Film Festival here in Columbia, South Carolina. And the Crimson Screen Film Festival is a plethora of feature and short films from filmmakers that are not only local to South Carolina, but from all over the world. And this was my very first film festival that I had ever been to, so needless to say, I was very excited about attending this. I had no idea that this festival even existed, and it's kind of crazy that it has evaded me for all these years because I'm so in tune with the horror community and everything around here. So when I finally seen an ad for it on social media, I was like, what is this and where has it been this entire time? And I guess that you can't find out everything because I literally had no idea about it. I even gave the guy who puts the festival on hell, telling him that I had never heard of this, and where has it been this entire time I've been living in South Carolina my entire life, and never once have heard about this. So this was kind of a very surreal experience because honestly, I never thought I'd ever be able to attend a film festival. So one being here in my home state of South Carolina, and it's a IMDb qualifying event, that's freaking crazy to me. And honestly, it's an honor to actually attend something like this. So I was very, very excited about going to this year. And unfortunately, I wasn't able to watch every single short that came out because you have to take time to go eat and stuff like that. And it's very crowded and very busy on Main Street in Columbia around the time this festival is taking place. So needless to say, there were some things I did have to sacrifice that I didn't feel too good about, but nevertheless, it had to happen. With that being said, I did see all 9 feature films. So I thought it would be pretty cool to do like a lightning round of reviews for each film, just a quick little synopsis and what I thought about the movie for each one that I got to see. And before I start, I just want to say that the majority of these movies are made with either very, very small budgets or no budget at all. And also, a lot of these movies were made by people who did not go to film school, did not attend some kind of actors school or anything like that. These people were just real passionate fans of the genre and wanted to make their own feature, and they got the balls up and they did it. And there's something to be said about that. There's some kind of a badge of honor that should be worn by these people, saying that they actually had the guts to actually get out there and do what they wanted to do. And I envy that. I really do, because it takes a lot for people to actually get up and take that first step into doing what they want to do. So kudos to all the directors in this festival, including, more importantly, the ones that are local here, because you guys are an inspiration, and I'm proud of all of you. So the first feature on day one of the festival is Mary's Lake, a campy camp slasher about a group of camp counselors that are looking forward to a summer of fun and friendship. However, their excitement is turned into horror when a dangerous escapee from a nearby mental institution starts hunting them down one by one. This movie was written and directed by Mark Williams and filmed in Sumter, South Carolina. And I had a chance to actually mingle and talk with Mark and the cast, and they're all awesome people. Like all of them were just a pleasure to sit around and talk to and stuff. So I really enjoyed that aspect of the film festival, that I actually got to meet some of the directors and stuff and actually talk to them and pick their brain and stuff. But just, I think the best part about this movie is the passion that this group of individuals put into this project. You can feel it on the screen. And that's something that you just don't have anymore. You don't have people who want to put their all into something. And you could tell it was very evident that everybody involved wanted to be there and wanted to make this movie. And that was just something that was very refreshing to me. The highlights of the movie are definitely the killer, and some of the kills were actually very well done considering that they had zero budget. The killer himself, I think his name is David, he's just this deranged, belligerent psychopath wielding an axe, and I thought that he was very effective in what he's doing. The actor that played him was a really nice guy. He's probably the nicest guy that I met at the festival. It's really, really kind of a strange comparison seeing him on screen and stuff, like he's this deranged killer, and then he's like this really sweet, nice guy that you meet afterwards. It was pretty cool. There were a couple of kills I thought were very well done, considering that they had no budget, because it's really hard to have effective kills without a budget. But with some good crafty camera work and stuff, Mark managed to pull it off, and he should be getting kudos for that, because he did a very damn good job with that. One in particular is a impalement death, and I thought it was so well done. And after he told me how it was done afterwards, I thought it was one of the greatest things I'd ever heard, because it was something that was so simple, and if one angle would have been off, it wouldn't have been effective at all. So that kind of stuff is really cool to me. As far as my criticisms of the movie go, I think other than the obvious problem of them just not having a budget, I think that this movie would have done a lot better if it would have been a short, because I do feel like that there is a lot of filler in the movie. You could trim out a good bit of material that wouldn't cut out any story elements whatsoever and make this movie significantly shorter, and I believe it would have been even more effective if they would have did so. And also, there is a supernatural element to this story that I thought was very interesting, but I didn't feel like that it was fleshed out good enough to be relevant in the story, if that makes any sense. I wanted it to have a little bit more of a footprint than what it did. So I feel like that if the script would have got tightened up just a little bit and more of the supernatural stuff would have been kind of put out there, I think it would have exponentially made the movie story a lot better. But I had a good time with this one, and it just gave me the cheesy, campy sleepaway camp vibes that I absolutely love. And I'm very, very excited to see what Mark and company do next, because if they keep on doing it and they keep on getting better, getting more money involved, and most of all, just keep that passion that they have, they're going to go on to do good things. And I'm very excited to see what they do next. So if you like campy slashers like Sleepaway Camp, give this one a shot. The next feature is Ladybug, and it is a supernatural thriller about a young artist that is stalked at his remote cabin by a killer who murdered his supernatural lover. And this movie is genuinely well done. It has a much bigger budget than the previous film I just reviewed, and it just does a really good job of building atmosphere and giving you this creepy cabin vibe that is very fleshed out throughout the movie. And going along with the atmosphere, you got a very creepy and very intimidating killer throughout the movie that I thought was very well performed and very well acted. And also, there's just really good performances in this movie. There's not a bad performance in the house. It's all around just solid in every aspect. And there's even some horror royalty in here, particularly Halloween royalty here, with Scott Taylor Compton's here, and she plays the artist's agent, and she gets a good bit of screen time, and she's great as usual. And then you even have a cameo from Nancy Stevens, Marilyn Chambers herself. So I just thought that was really, really cool. I definitely think this movie's strength is in the character development and the building of the tension in the movie. The only problems that I have with the movie is at times the story does get kind of muddled and confusing. And I really, really wanted a bigger conflict at the end of the movie. It kind of felt like some conflicts happen and then out of nowhere it kind of just stops. And then the movie kind of has a twist at the end, but then the movie just ends. And there's a lot of stuff left up into interpretation. So I just wanted a little bit more. But overall, it's a solid psychological supernatural thriller that I'm pretty sure is going to get picked up by some streaming service somewhere or be on VOD soon. So if that's your style of horror, make sure you check this one out. Closing out day one is the grindhouse style spaghetti western They Call Her Death. And this is a story about a woman named Molly who is living on the harsh frontier of the American prairie, whose life is turned upside down when her former outlaw husband is killed by a bounty hunter in a nearby town. And after discovering this great conspiracy that led to the death of her husband, Molly sets out on a path for bloody revenge with death himself by her side. I loved this movie. This movie was awesome. It was everything that I wanted it to be. Once I heard the premise, once I seen the style, I was like, oh yeah, this is something that I'm really wanting to see. I like the grindhouse feel, the gritty camera work and grainy film look, and I like the style that a lot of grindhouse films have. And this not only captures that grindhouse style perfectly, but it captures all of the spirit of all of those great spaghetti westerns from back in the day. Like, it's just truly a perfect mishmash of both of those genres. And all that style is further bolstered by this great story that is, once again, capturing the spirit of spaghetti westerns, that it just puts that little grindhouse gore and violence in it and gives it that gritty look, and it just works. It also has a great cast that have all solid performances. Some are better than others, but overall all of them are solid. But Molly, the lead, she is fantastic. She's great. You can feel her anger, her revenge, her resentment, that she is ready to just unleash bloody retribution on everybody who has wronged her, and for those that took her husband away from her, because they were just minding their own business and these people just had to involve them in their dirty work. And she just does a phenomenal job of being that kick-ass woman protagonist that you just are rooting for throughout this entire movie. And there is some great gore in this movie too, like heads exploding, limbs getting cut off. There's some gnarly scenes in this movie, and they're not too gnarly to the point that like you're so shocked by the realistic violence of it. It's gore in the sense of more to the Terrifier side, where it's like almost cartoonish with how over the top it is, and I absolutely loved it. There were scenes that like the whole crowd was like, ooh, and then it would laugh like hell afterwards because of these people are finally getting their comeuppings, and it was just a sight to see. And there was some genuine scenes that were funny as hell in this movie, and I don't know if they were intentional, but I can tell you now that they were funny as hell. There's one scene in particular towards the end of the film where there is like a minute and a half, at least it felt like a minute and a half, of this one character bitch slapping another character, and it was funny as shit. He bitch slaps this dude like 20 times and just resets, whap. It was so damn funny. The entire crowd was laughing hysterically because it was just so damn well done and so funny. So if you like them old school westerns like the Unforgiven or any of those old spaghetti westerns, but you'd like to see it through like a grindhouse lens or style, this is definitely the movie for you. So check it out now. I believe it's streaming on Shudder. So opening up day 2 is the found footage horror film McCurdy Point, the story of 4 friends on a birthday getaway to a remote cabin by a lake in Maine when they start to be tormented by a sinister force. Found footage is one of those genres that before they was very hit or miss for me. I either liked it or hated it. There was no in between. And here recently, there has been this resurgence of really good found footage movies. You got the VHS franchise, where literally there's only one bad film in that entire franchise, and that is Viral. And then there's the Hell House LLC franchise, which just, to me, is solid throughout, with the weakest one being the third film, and even that one's good. And then you got Deadstream. Deadstream is great. If you ain't never seen Deadstream, you need to check it out because Deadstream is hilarious. But those have given me this newfound respect and newfound love for found footage, and McCurdy Point is pretty solid. This movie starts out with like a haunted house type deal where they go to this cabin and you think the cabin is haunted or there's some kind of evil spirit there or something other, and then by midway through the movie you start understanding that it's a lot bigger than that, and it feels almost Lovecraftian towards the end, which I love Lovecraftian horror. So it was really cool to see that integrated in this movie. When this otherworldly presence starts messing with the cast, you definitely get a chill up your spine at some points in the movie, and your eyes are glued to the screen because you don't want to miss any little thing going on the camera. So I felt like that was very, very effective. It wasn't just a fake out thing like Paranormal Activity would do, where it would do this time lapse thing and barely nothing would happen. This would actually have stuff going on even after the time lapse, and I thought that was very well done. One of the things that found footage movies lose me with is if the camera is real shaky or not, because I just don't like getting motion sickness when I watch movies. And McCurdy Point is one of those that does a good job of avoiding that, because a lot of the cameras are stationary, but there is someone that's holding a camera most of the movie as well. But it's not like someone's just shaking everything in your face and you just can't focus on nothing. They do a good job of keeping it steady so that you don't really miss anything and it doesn't really obscure anything that you're seeing. And that was something that I want to commend it on, because that's always one of the big downfalls of found footage for me. And here recently, particularly like I was saying before, modern found footage has found a way to kind of avoid that problem. And probably the biggest strength of this movie is the cast and their camaraderie with each other, because they all bounce off of each other perfectly and they all act like they have been friends for years. And I do believe that two of the people that worked on the film are really good friends, but like all the cast members legitimately felt like we were just filming a man trip that they were having, because they all just mingled so well and matched so well together, and it felt just so organic. It was really, really good to see that. It gave the film a more realistic edge, and it was something that I really appreciated. Overall, it's a solid found footage horror film that is definitely worth your time. It's still going on the festival circuit, but stay tuned because it should be coming to VOD soon, or even a streaming service near you. The second film in day 2 is Straight On Till Morning, a story of two star-crossed lovers that set out on a spontaneous road trip to start new lives. But their budding romance becomes a fight for survival when they cross paths with a deranged family that has sinister intentions. This movie probably has the best performances acting wise that we see in the entire festival. I genuinely bought into the two leads and their romance. It was just done so well and so sincere that I could actually see these two being a couple in real life. They did this phenomenal job of just giving these genuinely sincere performances. Like, you can feel their passion and their love for each other, even though it doesn't seem like it should be that way, because they both kind of just meet each other in the movie. It's like it's legitimately the love at first sight thing. And you just watch it over this road trip over a couple of days. You watch it become this pretty much full-blown romance where these two people are really in love with each other and they're made for each other. And they're not the only ones that give solid performances. The family that abducts them is a cross between the Sawyer family from Texas Chainsaw Massacre and the Firefly family. And they are not the extreme of each one, but they're kind of somewhere in the middle of each one. And all three members of this family are fucked up. They are all sick and deranged, and they are genuinely scary and creepy. You do not want to run into these people. And what I like the most about it is that none of them, including the Leatherface type character from the family, are these imposing forces. They're just psychopaths. The Leatherface guy, he's a big dude, don't get me wrong, but he's not out here wielding a chainsaw and chasing you through the woods or anything like that. He is just this big dude that's like in a mask and stuff, not like your traditional like slasher mask, but like a mask that actually covers up a disfigurement in his face. But the two parents, they're the scariest ones in the entire movie. Their unhinged derangement is genuinely creepy. There's also some decent, shocking moments of gore in this movie. One in particular, and it's not necessarily really gory, it's just a shocking ass moment, and it's how the movie kicks off. And that's all I'm going to say. The first 3 minutes of this movie pulls you in immediately because of what happens. And if you watch this movie, if you don't get pulled in, then you just ain't got a pulse. As far as like throughout the movie, there's moments of violence that's pretty extreme. There's nothing in here that I would consider like torture pornish or like French extreme stuff like that. But there are moments where it gets pretty violent, and there's some stuff that makes you cringe because it's so violent, because it's just really mean-spirited. And normally that's a big turnoff for me, but it fits this movie, and it does a good job of just building tension throughout the movie. One of the things that I really appreciated about this movie was it is written very well. It has a complete and clear beginning, middle, and end, and the ending ends perfectly to me. And it's something that you just don't see in movies nowadays, particularly big budget movies. It either has a weak first act and a strong middle act and a good finale, or it's all mixed matched together where the tone's all over the place and the pacing's all over the place because they don't have a even written script throughout. This movie's written very well, and it keeps you engaged the entire time. There's also some really, really good shots in this movie. The cinematography is just beautiful, and the way that they get these overhead drone shots and stuff, it just opens up the horizon and takes that storytelling to the next level. This movie was one of my favorites of the festival, and as soon as it gets done with that festival circuit, I have no doubt it's also going to get picked up on a streaming service, or it's going to be released on VOD, and I recommend that you check it out. Closing out day 2 is Duba, a strange tale of a babysitter who is asked to watch a very strange child who may have or may not have killed her little brother sometime before. This movie was weird as fuck. It's a found footage movie with all stationary cameras. The cameras are all sitting still. There's no camera movement or anything. They're just a camera in this room and that room throughout this house and on the outside of this house, where we follow the characters around. And that wasn't a bad part of the film at all, but the weirdness of this movie, it made you strangely uncomfortable, but at the same time, it was funny as hell. The main character and her patience with the little girl, who's just absolutely fucking crazy, is very commendable, because some of the weird shit that this girl does, I would have got up and got the fuck out of there immediately. Left the kid, wouldn't have gave a damn, would have just left. The family themselves they're just odd. The little bit of dialogue that you get with the parents, they're crazy too. But the little girl definitely takes the cake. And when you finally find out or hear about her little brother dying, you have no doubt that she had something to do with it. And when everything is revealed, it kind of pays off and it kind of doesn't. But overall, my biggest gripe with this movie is I felt like that it doesn't work as a feature. I think it works better as a short. It actually feels like it should be a short on one of the VHS movies, because it just fits that feel, that look, that atmosphere, that type of storytelling. I felt like the movie was too drug out to be a feature film. With that being said, it's also really fucking weird, and the weirdness does play into the experience of the movie. But it really matters if you watch it with a group or not. We watched it in the theater, obviously, at this festival, and we had a blast with it because of how the audience was reacting. Everybody in the audience was reacting the same way. Why the fuck are you going in that room? Why are you staying in this house with this creepy girl? And some of the weird shit that would happen, everybody would just either laugh or just be like, what the fuck? So this movie was definitely the what the fuck movie of this festival, because it's a strange one. So I think if you're a fan of the VHS franchise, as soon as this finishes its festival run, it should go on VOD somewhere. It should go on a streaming service. Look it up, check it out if you're interested, because I think if you like VHS, you'll like this one. And opening the final day in the festival is Sugarloaf, and it's the story of a group of friends that are stranded on a forbidden mountain after an unforeseen incident. But it gets worse when they stumble upon mountain dwellers that will go to extreme lengths to protect their territory. This movie kind of takes like cues from movies like Wrong Turn and The Hills Have Eyes, whereas you have like hillbilly horror, I guess is what you would call it. But I do feel like that it's more geared towards suspense than it is horror. There's slasher elements in here, but there's no real mystery to anything. Like, the audience is in on the joke the entire time, if that makes any sense. We know what the characters don't know, so there's not really much mystery going on here. This was another movie that was filmed here in South Carolina, and for a movie that had a bigger budget than Mary's Lake, I do feel like that this is the weaker of the two locally filmed movies. For me, the charm of what makes Mary's Lake a fun watch is the passion that everyone involved put into it, and on this movie, they had a bigger budget. It's very clear they had a bigger budget, but I didn't feel the passion that was put into Mary's Lake in Sugarloaf. I feel like that Sugarloaf had a decent story and it had decent performances. I just feel like that some of the actors were definitely going through the motions. But I did like some of the action-packed scenes, and I also liked the head mountain man. I felt like that he was very formidable. He was this big ass dude, this really big guy who looked like a true mountain man, so he was kind of intimidating. And there was also some good shots as well, some great drone shots of the landscape and stuff, some good shots towards, particularly at the end of the movie, where there's a car involved and stuff, and there's one part where a character is killed in a car and the point of view is from the sunroof. I thought that was great, and I think that there are some genuinely funny scenes in this movie, whether they are intentional or not. But I think if you like wrong turn and movies like that with the hillbilly horror genre, and if you don't mind a lower budget, check this one out. The second film in the final day of the festival was The Reckoning, a dark drama about two brothers that must take their demented mother to the family estate in France to claim their birthright. This is probably my least favorite movie of the festival, which is crazy because it probably had the biggest budget, and it was probably the most competently directed, acted, and written. It just wasn't for me. First off, I didn't think that it belonged at the festival at all because it wasn't a horror film. And with that being said, it doesn't fit horror adjacently for me either. And it breaks one of my golden rules, one of my biggest pet peeves, and that is a movie that is masquerading as a horror movie and it is not horror in the least. I cannot stand that. It feels like getting blue balls. I can't stand it. It's like, let me introduce these horror elements and then never do anything with them. And that has always bugged the shit out of me when movies, TV shows, anybody does that. Perfect example of this is True Detective. Every season after season 1 has been this, is it supernatural? Is it horror? Is something going on? And at the end, none of those things get resolved. It's just hanging up in the air, and it was only put there to keep people watching. And that's exactly how I feel about The Reckoning. I felt like that movie had introduced some supernatural elements, possible supernatural elements in the movie, and then they absolutely went nowhere. The bad thing is that it's a pretty good movie. It's not bad at all. For a dark drama, it's not bad at all. I just didn't think that it needed to be in this festival, and that I didn't like how it played with those horror elements and only did so just to get people to watch it. And for me, that was something that ultimately really affected my experience with the movie. But it's not a bad made film. It's very well done all around. The acting performances are incredible in this. I just didn't care for how they chose to use those horror elements just to get people to watch the film and masquerade as a horror film when it's really just a drama. So if you like dramas, it's particularly dark ones, this one's definitely up your alley. And the final film in the festival is Black Theta, the story about Andy, who is a young man who is haunted by a brush with death after the leader of a mysterious cult tried to murder him years prior. But just when Andy is trying to move on, the cult returns for their revenge, and no one is safe. And this was my favorite film of the festival. Me and my wife absolutely loved this movie. It was the best experience that we had this entire weekend. This movie takes inspiration from horror comedies like Scream and other slashers of its kind, and it executes them perfectly. This movie is genuinely funny. And not in a goofy way, but in a genuinely funny way. This movie is written very well, and the characters in this movie are written very well also. The director is also the lead, And he does a phenomenal job at both directing and starring in this movie. And he's also the guy who did the soundtrack for it. It's like this little synthwave score that he does, and that's great too. So this guy's just a jack of all trades. But you can feel his love for the horror genre in the writing of the movie throughout the dialogue and throughout certain scenarios in the movie. He just does a great job and just understands the horror genre and understands, more importantly, the fans of the horror genre. There was so many references to other movies and hot takes in horror that literally got a genuinely laugh out loud reaction from audience members. I love the concept of a murder cult. Cults are always one of my favorite things to see in horror films, and I think that this cult does a good job of being sinister in a very campy way. They're almost, at times, the leader of the cult is almost mustache twirly sinister, and I think that that's very charming and it works, especially with how well it's written in this movie. So I really appreciated that as well. The kills are solid. They're nothing to write home about, but they're solid nevertheless. They're effective in what they were intended to do. And I feel like that, once again, he didn't have much of a budget here. And you see that he doesn't have much of a budget, and what he was able to do without a budget, he does a great job at. There's really, really good chase scenes in this movie. There's really good scenes where two characters are scuffling around. None of it feels inorganic at all. It feels like it's just two people are really scuffling around fighting for their lives, or someone is really running, fighting for their life, or running for their life. But the biggest strength of this movie is the characters and how they're written. I said before that the guy writes the movie and the dialogue very well, but man, these characters, it's genuinely some of the best characters in a horror film I've seen in a long time. And I know that that sounds absolutely batshit crazy, but I'm being dead serious when I tell you that I cared about every single character in this movie. I didn't want anyone to die in this movie because all of the victim characters were so well done, so well acted, had such personality, had so much good camaraderie with each other. It was great. And it was so refreshing to see that. And it's further proof that all you got to do is have good writing and good actors that play their roles great. And then you will have a cast of characters that you truly care about and that you don't want to see them die. So you are on the edge of your seat, not wanting those characters to die throughout the entire movie. And we weren't alone. Me and my wife both cared about the characters, but the entire audience cared about the characters. They didn't want anyone to die. Anytime someone died or someone got close to dying, like there was genuine concern and gas and stuff like that. People was like, oh no, not that guy. Like everyone loved these characters, and that's incredible for a low budget film. You don't see this in big budget films, much less low budget films. And all the cast was just great. All of them gave these great organic performances. So if you're in a mood for a shockingly good low-budget slasher, look no further than Black Theta. I have no doubt that it's going to go on a streaming service soon as our VOD. I really hope that Shudder picks it up because this one's pretty damn good. It was my favorite film of the festival, so make sure you check this one out. So overall, I'll say that my first film festival experience was great. I am so excited for next year's Crimson Screen. So be on the lookout for all these movies on VOD and streaming. They should be dropping sometime this year, hopefully, because majority of these definitely deserve to be picked up by somebody. But that's going to bring this video to an end. If you like this video, like it. If you like it enough, please head over to the channel, hit the subscribe button, and make sure you hit the bell notification so you never miss an episode. Also, please follow me on all social media platforms so you can get channel updates, movie news, and all forms of badassery. If you follow me on social media, you know that I got to see an advanced screening of Bring Her Back, the newest A24 movie from the same guys who did Talk to Me. It was pretty damn good. That one's probably going to be out at the beginning of next week. Movie actually premieres on Thursday, but I should have that review out at the beginning of next week. Also, still working on a couple of things that I'm going to be premiering pretty soon, so stay tuned for all that. I'm really excited to bring all this stuff to you because I know I've been talking about it for weeks now. In fact, I've probably been talking about it for a couple of months now. It's something I'm working really hard on, so hopefully it's going to turn out pretty good. So stay tuned for all that. And remember, I'm Joe Grizzly, bitch.